that working? You can hear it? You cannot hear it. Oh, you can. It's working. Oh, okay.
All right, y'all. It is again my honor to introduce Brother John Kostick for this second night that he's here for this Sukkot, and I just look forward to what he's going to bring bring to our attention that's in the Word. And thankful to the Lord for putting things in the Word that are worth finding. And I'm thankful for people like John that are willing to do the work, going and looking for those things. And so I don't want to take up too much more time. I want to give John a good full amount of time that he can use. So without further ado, we welcome our brother John Kostick. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother. Please keep applauding. Okay. This talk is really long, so we're going to split it into 2 nights. And, okay, unless I talk fast and get through it, but I don't think I will. There's a Messiah that's been promised, and he's the son of David, right? You've heard this before. But the Jews also have another Messiah that they call the son of Joseph. And that's the topic we're going to talk about tonight. I was introduced to this topic when I had my Jewish friend who lived down the road, and I visited him every day at 4 o'clock until 5 o'clock. And we would sit and talk about the Bible and life and whatever. And I kept telling him Jesus is the Messiah. And he's the one who said, yes, there's the Messiah, son of David, but he's also son of Joseph. And I said, well, yeah, there's Mary, who was his mother, and Joseph was the father. So he would be the son of Joseph. He said, no, I'm not talking about, and he would call Mary that. Yeah, it was not good. Yeah. The B word, in case you didn't hear it. Okay. There was no respect at all for her. Because they don't believe in immaculate conception, so she was pregnant out of wedlock and whatever. So it took me a while to realize that he was talking about a different Joseph, and the only other Joseph that I knew was the one back in Genesis that the brothers may or may not have sold into slavery, right, into Egypt. So let's just talk about the Messiah first. The first mention or hint of a Messiah coming was in Genesis 3:15. They call this the proto-evangelium, the first gospel. And it's, I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. By the way, Genesis 3:15, in the Jewish Bible, this is how it would read. Here we have Genesis 3:15. In Hebrew, they have Bereshit, Gimel is 3, And then I have Yod Hey. Yod is 10, Hey is 5. So that's 315. The problem is, when you have Yod Hey spells Yah. And Exodus 27 says, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not leave anyone unpunished who takes his name in vain. So the Jews will not say Yah. They don't call him Yahweh. They'll call him Yah-K or Elohim. They change the H to a K because they don't want to take his name in vain, even if it's a sentence that is praising or positive toward him. Maybe it's not positive enough and it's taking his name in vain. So they don't take any chances. So they won't say 315. Instead, they'll use Tet Vav. They would be saying Yah if they said Yod Hey. And so they'll use, here, Tet is 9, Vav is 6, you're getting 15. And if you look through their Bible, they never put Yod Hey together. They always put Tet Vav to represent 15. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, so he's going to put enmity between the snake and the woman, and the snake's seed and her seed. The snake's seed is Antichrist, and her seed is going to be Messiah. And there's going to be this hostility between the two. Her seed is going to bruise his head, and the snake seed is going to bruise the Messiah's heel, which, when Yeshua is hanging on the cross, they drive nails through his heel, and he gets his heel bruised. And when Yeshua is dying, his blood is dripping down onto Golgotha. Golgotha is that head-shaped mountain, and when that blood drops hits that skull mountain, that's crushing Satan's head, because Satan had no idea. Satan thinks he's winning. Oh yes, they've arrested him. Satan knows who Jesus is. He's Messiah. He's God. They've arrested him. Oh, they're beating him. They're pulling his beard. They're marching him up. They're nailing him. Satan thinks he's winning. And then all of a sudden, there's a point where Satan, wait. No, this is the sacrifice that everybody in the world needs. Stop. But too late. Yeah, you understand? Satan thinks he's winning, and then God always wins in the end. All right, where's my clicker? Yes, and we're going to do a side note. Since we're doing a 2-night thing, I can go off on these rabbit trails. Remember, whenever David takes the stone, hits Goliath, knocks him down, that doesn't kill Goliath. It just knocks him down. It later says then David took Goliath's sword, killed him, and cut off his head. So the stone didn't kill Goliath. Then it says that he cut off Goliath's head, and he took Goliath's armor and his head. Now, Goliath's 9 feet tall, so his head's like this. Back to Jerusalem, 20 miles, and it says he put the armor in his tent. So I can see armor in the tent. Where does David put this big dead head? He can't take it into the city, the walled part of Jerusalem. You're not allowed to have death brought in there. So he's got to put him someplace. I think he put him under this skull-shaped rocky formation, the place of the skull. There's tunnels down in there. I think he put the head in there. And it was the head of Goliath of Gath. Goliath of Gath. Gath. That's what it became. And Goliath is a type of Antichrist. And there's that skull shaped like a skull. And when Jesus' blood hits it, that's the crushing that Genesis 3:15 talks about. Okay? Now, so we need some clues as to who the Messiah will be, because he's coming sometime in the future. How will we know who it is? Well, God covered that. In Deuteronomy 18, he says to Moses, I'm going to raise up a prophet like you from among their brethren. There's 3 points in that, what I just read. The Messiah is going to be a prophet. Yeshua was a prophet, okay? He prophesied his death, burial, and resurrection, right? Actually, Messiah has to be 3 things. He has to be king, priest, and prophet. When the wise men brought gifts, they brought gold. That's what you'd bring a king. They brought frankincense, which is what a priest would use in the temple. And they brought myrrh, which is what you use for embalming. And Jesus prophesied his death, burial, and resurrection. So those 3 gifts, prophet, priest, and king. So I'm going to raise up a prophet. So Messiah has to be a prophet. And that is next 2 words, like you. God is talking to Moses. So this Messiah, whoever shows up, he's going to be like Moses. And he's going to be from among their brethren, which means he's got to be Jewish. So we need to find a Jewish guy who's a prophet and who's like Moses. Well, if you go through the Torah, these are parallels between Yeshua and Moses. They both come up out of a river. Jesus was baptized. Moses, he was as a baby. He was come up out of the Pharaoh's daughter pulls him out. I mean, I'm not going to go through them all. I've got 7-hour videos on the parallels. We did them all here, if you remember, for those who are here. But here's a whole bunch of them. And here's a bunch more. Yes. Yep, here's more. Remember, turned water to blood. The river and Jesus turned water to wine. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. There's nobody who's more like Jesus than Moses. Here's more. Right? No. Jesus wasn't Moses, but Jesus and Moses have the most items in common. That's all I'm saying. And the Jews today, if they're looking for their Messiah, and if they read about Jesus, every little detail that Jesus did, Moses did. And so they should have no question, who's the Messiah? Okay. So, where the Jews have a problem, and my friend Roby, is because you have a verse like this. It says in Daniel, this is a messianic prophecy, I saw in the visions of the night, and behold, with the clouds of the heaven, one like a man was coming. And he came up to the Ancient of Days and was brought before him. So here we have this Messiah character riding on the clouds of heaven. By the way, only one person rides on the clouds of heaven. I think it's Ezekiel 40 or Isaiah 40, I think it's Isaiah 40, where Yahweh rides on the clouds of heaven. Remember, whenever they arrest Jesus and he's in front of Caiaphas, and Caiaphas, I adjure you, are you the Christ, the Son of the living God? And Jesus said, it is as you say, and soon you will see the Son of Man riding on the clouds of heaven. Caiaphas went crazy when he said that phrase, because Caiaphas knows Isaiah 40. Only one person rides on the clouds of heaven, and that's Yahweh. And when Jesus says, soon you're going to see me riding on the clouds of heaven, Caiaphas, what did he do? He tore his garment. Blasphemy. Do we need to hear any more? He deserves death. He's claiming to be God. Understand? Oh, by the way, and we can, this little side also. As soon as Caiaphas tore his garment, Leviticus 21, it has all the rules for high priest. The high priest may not tear his garment. The moment Caiaphas did that, he's no longer high priest. There's now an opening for high priest, and Yeshua fills that position because he's the high priest and he's the sacrifice, everything. And then you'll notice whenever they have him on the cross and they're splitting up his garment and they come to this one garment that they can't tear it because it would ruin the garment. So Jesus' garment is not torn, showing that he's the new high priest. Make sense? Okay. We're digressing a lot. We're not going to, it might be a three-parter. Okay, then you have a messianic prophecy like this that says, rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, your king is coming to you. He is just and having salvation, lowly and riding on a donkey, a colt, the foal of a donkey. So, we have a Messiah who's coming riding on the clouds, and we have a Messiah who's going to be riding on a donkey. So that's confusing. So the Jews say there must be two Messiahs. One will come riding on the clouds, and one will come on a donkey. Another sect of Jews here in Sanhedrin 98, this is the Talmud, which is man-made, not God-made. But it says, if Jewish people are worthy, Messiah will come on the clouds of heaven. If they're not worthy, he'll come lowly riding on a donkey. That's that's Talmud, right? Those are rabbis interpreting. Yeah. But other Jews think that there are two Messiahs. One who's going to be King of Kings and one who's going to be suffering servant. Okay? The one riding on a donkey. By the way, do you know a donkey or an ass or a burro? Donkeys have a cross on their back. Isn't that amazing? Okay. Yeah, and I've looked at I haven't got a better picture, but that's a good picture there that explains it. Okay. And that's a burro with an O versus, burrow with an O-W. You know the difference, right? If you don't know the difference, you don't know your ass from a hole in the ground. What? What? Okay. Okay, so the Jews claim two messiahs. You have Messiah ben David, and you have Messiah ben Yosef. Ben David, he's going to come King of Kings, Lord of Lords. You can read about him in Isaiah 11, Psalm 72. Okay? Or you have suffering servant, Ben Joseph. And this Joseph they're talking about is the one who got sold by his brothers, right? That now makes more sense. Suffering servant, right? Okay, we're going to get into that. Psalm 22, my God, why have you forsaken me? Isaiah 53, sheep like a lamb led to the slaughter. By the way, Psalm 22, my God, why have you forsaken me? You know why he said that twice, my God, my God? Because he's one of the three. He's talking to the other two. Okay. But those rules aren't exact, set in stone, because here's Messiah ben Joseph, the one who's a suffering servant. Pharaoh told Joseph, I place you over all the land of Egypt. So he's suffering servant a little bit, but he's also raised to number 2, right? And David, King of Kings and Lord of Lords, but David, these are psalms of lament from David. So David wasn't always high and mighty. He had his suffering servant pictures too. So the two cross over, you understand? Here's just how I must wrestle in my soul with sorrow in my heart each day. I have overcome him. My foes rejoice when I fall. You can see it. David is lamenting suffering servant stuff also. I am forgotten like a dead man out of mind. Okay. These are things David said. Yeah. Right. Okay, so the Jews are thinking 2 messiahs. What they have not considered, 1 Messiah, 2 visits. Which now, that's making some sense. The first time Yeshua comes, he will come as suffering servant. And he will take care of our sin problem. He's coming as our priest. Remember, he's a prophet, priest, and king. So he comes as our priest and redeemer. He doesn't want to bring a bunch of sinners to heaven. He wants us all to be redeemed and get the salvation. Then come back and take us up. Then when he comes back, he's going to rule and reign. He will be king, Melech, okay? And he's King of Kings and Lord of Lords. They never thought about that, the 2 visits. And most Jews will say, well, he can't be the Messiah because the Messiah is supposed to bring peace on earth. And Jesus didn't bring peace. He brought turmoil and fighting and, okay. But he will bring peace on the second visit. And they're going, wow, that's a cop-out answer. You know, what do we got to wait thousands of years? So I understand their point to some, but they need to look at Moses and Jesus parallels, and then there can't be any other Messiah. Okay, so let's look at this Joseph, because that's going to be one of the Messiahs, the son of Joseph. Joseph, his story is from Genesis 37 through 50. 13 chapters. There are more written about Joseph than any other patriarch, more than Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob. Isn't that interesting? And no sin is ever attributed to Joseph. He never did anything wrong, which makes him a great Messiah type. Now, just for the record, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Has Joseph sinned? Yes. But there's nothing recorded about him doing that. I think there's a couple other people. Is it Daniel maybe had no sin mentioned about him? There's very few who have no sin. Moses had a sin. He struck the rock twice, right? Noah got drunk. Daniel, I think, has no sin written about him, and Joseph is one that has no sin. Then here again, God remembered Rachel. God listened to her and opened her womb, and she conceived and bore a son and said, God has taken away my reproach. So she called his name Joseph and said, the Lord shall add to me another son. Remember, Rachel was the loved wife. Leah was the other. Leah kept having babies, and their servants, maids kept having babies, but Rachel didn't have babies. But finally she did, and she said, the Lord shall add to me. The Yasaf is the word is that to add. And that's where she got the name Joseph, because the Lord added to me a son. So that's how he got the name. And in Isaiah 9:6, this is our Christmas card verse. Unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. Government on his shoulders. His name will be Wonderful Counselor. By the way, there's commas between those. His name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, comma, Everlasting Father, comma, Prince of Peace. He's not Wonderful Counselor. His name will be Wonderful, and his name will be Counselor. Understand? We all sometimes just run them together and think he is a wonderful counselor, but those are two separate names. Yes. By the way, the word wonderful in Hebrew is Pele. It's a Pei, Lamed, Aleph. If you write it backwards, it's Aleph, Lamed, Pei, which spells Aleph. Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph is the letter that represents God. So wonderful backwards is the letter representing God. And then of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end. So there's increase associated with Messiah, according to this verse. So both Joseph and Messiah, Yeshua, are going to be associated with addition or increase. Okay? Here's Pele. Pei, Lamed, Aleph. When you write it backwards, it's Aleph. And in 9:7, it says, as we said, there will be no end to the increase of his government. This is another one of those rabbit trails. Watch this. Here. To the increase is Lamar Bay. Here's Lamar Bay. To the increase of his government, there'll be peace, right? That's what it's saying. Look at this word Lamar Bay. This is a little deeper now for those who know a little bit about Hebrew. Do you notice anything about Lamar Bay? Yes. That mem is the mem that you use only if it's the mem shows up at the end of a word. See, you should use this mem. If it's in, because you're reading here, Lamar Bay. You should use that mem. But he's not. He's used this mem. That's what's coming, yes. Well, you're here every year. I tell this every year. I'm glad somebody actually is listening and remembers. So here's the letter mem. There are two shapes to mem. There's the regular shape, if it's the first letter of the word or the middle. There's this shape, if it's the last letter of a word. So mem, remember that mem also represents an open womb. See, here's a birth canal. It looks like a pregnant woman, right? I don't have to do that. I can just stand normal when it looks like that. So here's open womb, and that's a closed womb. Come back here. Oh my, this thing's going crazy. So, in Lamar Bay, they've got here a closed womb, mem. You know what that's showing? That's hinting at virgin birth. That this Messiah who's coming is coming with a closed womb. It's going to be a virgin birth. Because what's the verse before? Unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. Notice the child is born and the son is given. So he's going to be man, child is born, and he's going to be from God, son is given. So he's man and God, and it's virgin birth because of the closed mem. Okay. So Joseph and Yeshua are both associated with addition or increase. Genesis 37:2, these are the records of the generations of Jacob. Joseph was 17 years of age, was pasturing the flock with his brothers while he was still a youth, along with the sons of Bilhah and the sons of Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought back a bad report about them to their father. Notice that Bilhah and Zilpah, those I always thought were the maidservants of Leah and Rachel. And they were. But they also referred to them as his wives because he slept with them and had children, right? Some of the babies came from Leah, a bunch of them, 6, I think. And then 2 did come from Rachel. But the others came from Bilhah and Zilpah. And his father's wives. That's interesting. Okay. And in John 10, about Jesus, I am the good shepherd, gives his life for the sheep. Good shepherd, I know my sheep, and they are known to me. So what we have here is a parallel between Joseph and Yeshua. Both are shepherds. We're going to look at, as Joseph, if he's going to be a Messiah type, even the Messiah, Ben Joseph, suffering servant, there's probably going to be parallels between Joseph and Jesus. There are a lot of Messiah types in the Old Testament, Moses being the ultimate. But there are others. Boaz is one. But some are just, Moses is the biggest. I think Joseph is the second biggest. Shepherds, both. Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a tunic of many colors. As soon as Jesus was baptized, he came up out of the water, heavens opened, Spirit of God descending like a dove and resting on him. A voice from heaven said, "This is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased." So we have both of them are beloved of their father. Okay? Okay, we're going to get through a little side. Is that okay? Like you can say no. You know, I made a video about Elijah and Elisha. It's 4 parts, probably 5 or 6 hours, all of it. And I live in Kyrgyzstan part of the year, and in front of where I was living, there's a river. And Elijah has that story where he's coming across with Elisha, and he takes off his cloak, hits the water stops, and then he walks across. And that's when he says, "Okay, Elisha, what do you want? How about a double portion?" And Elijah says, "I don't know if I can give that, but if you see me go when I go, may God give you the double portion." And then all of a sudden, up he goes, right? And Elisha does get a double portion. Then Elisha picks up the cloak, goes back to the river, hits the water, it dries up, and he walks across. So I'm telling my Kyrgyzstani people, and I come up with crazy ideas that they're like, "You can't do that." And then we end up doing it, you know. There was a boulder once in the middle of the river. I said, "I want that boulder in front of my house." "You can't. It's in the middle of the river." No, next thing you know, whoops, there goes another rubber tree plant. We got a big crane came out and picked up the boulder and put it where I wanted it. So I said, "I want to stop the river. I want to go down, take off my hard rock jacket, strike the river, and the river stop flowing, and I'll walk across." "You can't do that." I said, "No, maybe we get some plywood, a couple sheets, and you guys go upstream, and when I strike it, you put the plywood down, and it'll stop the river for 2 minutes before, you know." And they're going, "No, that's not a good idea. And plus, who will get plywood, and how are we going to haul it?" And we went for a walk one day, and way upstream, there's a place where the river comes down, and then it can divert into like 4 different paths. And they've got these big gates with handles. And so you can shut off this leg or that leg or whatever. And we found out who does the shutting off. We went and paid them $5, and They shut it off when we said, and action. And we did it the next day because I had to get cue cards ready and get my jacket ready and everything. And sure enough, we went down and I struck the water. And the guy turned the water off. The river dried up. I walked across. And as I was walking across, a dove flew by. It's somewhere, yeah. Okay, well, Friday or Saturday when it'll bring you back now. Because I got to cue it up to where in the video it is, and it's, 2-hour video, I'm not sure exact. But it really was there. I mean, a dove flies by. And then as soon as I crossed over, and the river starts flowing again. And then my Kyrgyzstani friends are like, because I keep telling them, listen, there's a verse that says, with God, all things are possible. So no matter what crazy thing I suggest, now they just know, okay, it's crazy, but we know it's going to happen. We don't know how, but they're realizing I got the good God, versus their Allah. They don't believe. Never mind. They're not really practicing, but it's all right. Anyway, there's the story with the dove I saw. Okay, so they're both beloved of their father. Israel loved Joseph. We already read this one. His son of his old age. So Joseph was son of old age. And look in Jesus here. But you, Bethlehem Ephratah, though you are little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of you shall come forth to me one to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth are from old, from everlasting. So both are from fathers of old age. Now you, Father, glorify me together with yourself and with the glory which I had with you before the world existed. There's old age. Son of old age. Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. There we were, binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright, and indeed your sheaves stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf. Okay, there's Joseph. And in Jesus, you said it yourself, Jesus answered, but I say to you, from now on, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven. So we have Joseph and Jesus both prophesied future sovereignty. Right? They knew what was coming. His brothers said to who? Said to him, shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us? So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. And in Matthew, and those who passed by heaped abuse on him, shaking their heads. In the same way, the chief priests, scribes, elders mocked him. He saved others, but he can't save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now if he wants him. For he said, I am the Son of God. So what's the parallel? They were both mocked. Their dreams and their words were mocked and not believed. Brothers said, shall you reign over us, have dominion over us? They hated him even more. And John 15, but this is to fill what is written in the law. They hated me without reason. So they were both hated by brothers. Israel said to Joseph, are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, I will send you to them. Joseph is sent to check on the welfare of his brothers. Jesus explained, my food is to do the will of him who sent me and to finish his work. So both were sent by their father to check on the welfare of their brothers. Right? Jesus was sent to I think I have a verse here. I can do nothing myself. I judge only as I hear. My judgment is just because I don't seek my own will, but the will of whom sent me. I think I have another one here. There is a verse somewhere where he's come to the lost sheep of Israel, right? He came. Thank you much. Hold on. Know what? No, I think I was referring more to this. He answered and said, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Here, Joseph's father sent him to go check on his brothers. God sent Jesus to check on his brothers, the Jews. But then, of course, the Jews rejected. So God so loved the world, he gave his only son. Everyone who believes in him shall not perish, have everlasting life. So it ends up being sent for everybody when the Jews rejected. Okay. And Jacob said to him, please go and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the flocks, and bring back word to me. So he sent him out of the valley of Hebron, and he went to Shechem. This is cool. And you probably didn't know this. Ready? Yeah. He sent him out of the valley of Hebron. Well, first of all, see that it is well with them. The word they're using for well is shalom. Make sure it's shalom with them. Okay, so that's nice, because it has it mentioned twice in there. Bring back word to me. The Hebrew word for word is debar. That's just nice to know, because remember, if you want to pluralize a masculine name, you put I-M on the end. Yud Mem. Debar is word. Debarim is words. And that's the fifth book of the Bible in Hebrew, Debarim. Right? We call it Deuteronomy, but the Jews call it Debarim. Words. It's the words. Mm-hmm. But now here's the one that I want to stress, Hebron. Hebron means communion and fellowship. Okay? It comes from the Hebrew habar. This is not a hey, it's a chet. So it's the habar. And it means to join and associate. So you get the idea of fellowship and communion, right? Between it. It does. It's a chet. Right. Because that's normally how we all spell it. So, he was in Hebron, Joseph was, with his father. And then he went to Shechem. And Shechem means shoulder. And your shoulder is, you put your shoulder to the wheel or the grindstone. And it's more of a work. It's more of a toil. Correct? Okay. So you have Joseph, who is in fellowship, communion with his father, and he leaves to go do work. And I see that parallel with Jesus. He's up in heaven with his father, communion, beautiful, and then God sends him to earth. There's some work involved. Okay, remember, Dinah was one of Jacob's daughter. She had born to Jacob. Went out to see the daughters, and then when Shechem, the son of Hamor, prince of the country, saw her, he took her and lay with her and violated her. And we won't read it all, but Jacob's sons are going to seek revenge, and the Shechem boys, they agree to get circumcised, and as they're being healed, Jacob's boys go in and slaughter them all, right? So when you have Shechem, who's the guy whose family raped Dinah, well, maybe raped her, we don't know. So Shechem has to do with, Shechem is the Hebrew word for shoulder. It has to do with rape and murder and lying, betrayal, all the bad stuff that occurred with Shechem, right? And so you have Joseph, it said, he sent him out from the valley of communion and he went to rape, murder, lying. You see that picture? And Jesus did the same. Oh, head shaking either way? Yes? Okay. But he does come back at the end. Yeah. Okay. So left communion with Father to become a servant. Okay. Okay, Genesis 37:15. Now a certain man found him, and there he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, "What are you seeking?" He said, "I'm seeking my brothers. Please tell me where they are feeding their flocks." The man said, "They've departed from here, for I heard them say, 'Let's go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. You know, when Joseph went to this field where they were supposed to be, and they weren't there, Joseph could have, "Oh, they're not there. I'm going to go back and tell Dad." But he didn't. He asked and pursued, and I think they went here, and Joseph continued. So Joseph sticks to the mission, right? Remember when his parents saw him, this is Jesus, Luke 2, they were astonished. "Child, why have you done this to us?" his mother asked. "Your father and I have anxiously been searching for you." Remember, they had gone to Jerusalem for the Passover, and as they were coming back, Jesus was missing. "Why were you looking for me?" he asked. "Did you not know I had to be in my Father's house?" But they didn't understand the statement he was making to them. And then therefore, when Jesus had received the sour wine, he said, "It is finished." He bowed his head and gave up his spirit. Jesus stuck to the mission. They were in Jerusalem for Passover, but he had a mission. He went back to the temple to, okay. So that is a parallel between the two. And that's the only time we hear about Jesus, right? Because we have his birth, and then we have this little story when he was 12 years old, and then we don't hear him again until he's 30, right? There's all those teenage years, we don't know what he did. I can just picture Jesus as a teenager. "Yeah, I'm the Son of God." She says, "No way." He says, "Yahweh." Okay. Sticks to his mission. Okay, now when the brothers saw him from afar, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. "Come, therefore, let us kill him and cast him into some pit, and we shall say some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dreams." And in the New Testament, but the Pharisees went out and plotted how they might kill Jesus, and they conspired to arrest Jesus covertly and kill him. So they were both intended targets of a conspiracy to kill. Okay, look at here in Genesis 37. "Therefore come, let us kill him and cast him to some pit. And we'll say a wild beast devoured him." We'll see what becomes of his dreams. Mark 7, he began to speak to them in parallels. A man planted a vineyard, set a hedge around it, dug a place for the wine vat, and built a tower. He leased it to the vine dressers and went off to a far country. At vintage time, he sent a servant to receive fruit of the vine. They took him and beat him and sent him away empty-handed. Therefore, still having one son, his beloved, he also sent him to the last. They will respect my son. But those wine dressers said among themselves, this is the heir, come let us kill him, and the inheritance will be ours. So Jesus is giving this parallel, but it's just talking about himself, right? And it parallels exactly what happened with Joseph, okay? Notice that here, the vine dressers said among themselves, this is the heir, come let us kill him. That phrase, if you go back to Genesis 37, therefore, come let us kill him. It's exactly the same words. Now, this is New Testament, and New Testament was written in Greek. Old Testament was written in Hebrew, but it was translated into Greek in the Septuagint. And the Septuagint uses the exact same phrase, and this was written 1,000 years before Jesus, right? So they're using the exact same phrase, come let us kill him. So there's a parallel between Jesus and Joseph. But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, let us not kill him. And Reuben said to them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit, which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to his father. So Reuben tried to do the right thing. In Matthew 27, so when the crowd had assembled, Pilate asked them, which one of you do you want me to release to you, Barabbas or Jesus, who is called the Christ? For he knew it was out of envy that they had handed Jesus over to him. Parallel? Plans were devised to save the victim. Reuben tried to save Joseph. Pilate tried to save Jesus. Yes? I like when Pilate asked, who do you want me to release? And they all yelled, release Barabbas. What is bar in Hebrew? Son. What is Abba? They're all yelling, release Son of the Father. Release Son of the Father. And I'm Jesus. He's sitting there going, yes, yes. They're all yelling, release Son of the Father. He's the ultimate Son of the Father. You know? And then he looks at the guy next to him like, what are you smiling about? My name is Barabbas. Jesus. Newman. Okay, plans devised to save. Something's happening here. This is falling off my head. Okay. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the robe of many colors he was wearing. And Jesus, they stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him. So they were both stripped of their coats. By the way, that coat, tunic, a coat of many colors, there's question about what that actually translates. You know, it's not like you hear this coat of many colors, you think of, what's the Lloyd Webber's Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and you know, it's not like that there was like this United Colors of Benetton out in the desert, and they bought this really crazy. They didn't have that. What it may have had was a stripe. You know, it was brown and it had a gray stripe. Another translation of many colors is long sleeved. So it could have been a coat of long sleeves. Don't picture these rainbowy robe. That just probably wasn't it. And if it is colored, it probably had a stripe on it. And if you think about it, you ever seen a tallit that the Jewish men wear? It's white and it has a black stripe. That would be more, all the other brothers had just a solid color something. Joseph had one that had a stripe or a long sleeve. I'm not sure what the translation is, but don't picture the Andrew Lloyd Webber Technicolor dream coat. No, I haven't. Yeah. Oh, okay. So they were both stripped of their coats. They took him and cast him to a pit. Pit was empty. There was no water in it. Ephesians 4, therefore, it says, when he ascended on high, he led the captives, and he gave gifts to people. Now, this expression, he ascended, what does it mean? Except that he had also descended into the lower parts of the earth. He who descended is himself also he who ascended far above all the heavens, so that he might fill all things. So they both spent time in a pit. Jesus, hell? Is that where you go down to the hell? Is that what, here he went? Okay. Spent time in a pit. So Judas said to his brothers, what profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother in our flesh. And his brothers listened. Matthew 27, when Judas, who had betrayed him, saw that Jesus was condemned, he was filled with remorse and returned the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders. So both the selling out of their brother was done by Yehuda, which is the Hebrew name. Yehuda in English is Judah. In Greek, it's Judas. The one who suggested selling were named the same. Judas's name is Yehuda. Judas Iscariot. Yes. But they both have the same name, Yehuda. Jesus would have called Judas Yehuda. Okay? When you translate it into Greek, you translate it as Judas. And Judas was from the village of Keriot. And he was a man of Keriot. The Hebrew word for man is Ish. That's one of them. It was Adam means man. Ish also means man. That's why we have, if you're from Denmark, you're Dane-ish. If you're from Sweden, you're Swede-ish. You're a Swede man. Yeah, from Britain, Brit man, British. So that ish means man. So Judas, he is a man of Keriot. He is an Ish Keriot. Judas Iscariot. Got it? Okay, so the selling out was proposed by Judah or Judah, same guy, same name. Then some Midianite traders passed by, so they pulled up and lifted Joseph out of the pit and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver, and they brought Joseph into Egypt. By the way, I should have this in Hebrew. I was going to put it in there, but I didn't. But look here. It says, some Midianite traders passed by, and they pulled and lifted Joseph out of the pit. Who's they? The Midianite traders. The Midianite traders pulled him out of the pit, and they sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver, and the Ishmaelites brought Joseph to Egypt. In that verse, do you see the word brothers anywhere at all? No. The Midianite traders pulled him out. The Midianite traders sold him to the Ishmaelites. The Ishmaelites took him to Egypt. The Jewish brothers have been blamed for thousands of years of selling their brother, but they didn't actually do it. Yes, they plotted and planned and wanted him gone. They threw him in the pit. In fact, if you look at the next verse, Reuben comes by and he's shocked. Oh my goodness, he's not there. Where is he? And he ran and told his brothers, he's not in the pit. Well, if Reuben and the brothers pulled him out and sold him, Reuben shouldn't be surprised that he's not there, right? And he didn't have to run and tell them he's gone. This is very parallel. Watch. The Jewish brothers have been blamed for thousands of years. They'd sell their own brother, but they didn't do it. And you know what else? For 2,000 years, the Jews have been blamed as Christ killers. Did they do it? They wanted him dead, but they didn't drive a single nail. The Romans did. And then they twisted it and blamed the Jews. And just like here, that's another parallel that's massive, right? The two innocent groups, and both groups wanted him gone, but they didn't actually do the dirty deed, right? But they've been blamed. Both groups have been wrongly blamed ever since. Now, with Jesus' crucifixion, the Romans wouldn't have done it without being spurred on by the Jews. And the Jews, like I said, really wanted it done. And Jesus died for Jew and Gentile. So both have bloody hands. Understand? But the Jews didn't actually kill him. And the brothers didn't actually sell him. Yes. Yes. What I received, I pass on to you as of first importance, that Christ died for our sins according to the Scripture. He was buried and raised on the third day according to the Scripture. So what we do have is both emerged alive from the pit. He was sold and thrown in the pit, but he came out of the pit alive. And so did Jesus, his pit being the tomb. Okay. Same verse here. They sold Joseph to Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. 1 Corinthians 15, then one of the 12, the one called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and asked, "What are you willing to give me if I hand him over to you?" And they laid out 30 pieces of silver. So both were sold for the redemption price in silver. I'm going to explain you what that means in a minute here. And the temple valuations were adhered to. And that's, I'm also going to explain, okay, what that means. Here, in Leviticus 27, it talks about what you have to pay the temple each year because of your valuation. And it's a lot of writing here, but it says, "Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the sons of Israel and say to them, when a man makes an explicit vow, he shall be valued according to your assessment of persons belonging to the Lord. If your assessment is a male from 20 to 60 years old, then your assessment shall be 50 shekels of silver by the shekel sanctuary." So if you're male, this. If you're female, there's the male. If you're female, your assessment shall be 30 shekels. Make sense? If you're male between 5 and 20, you got to pay 20 shekels. If you're female, it's 10. If you're a child, male and female, it's 5 and 3. So whenever they sold Joseph, he was 17 years old. So how much did they sell Joseph for? 20 shekels, because that's his valuation, according to the temple. Understand? They're following the Leviticus rules in these prices. Now, Jesus wants a bride. The bride's price is 30 shekels of silver, right? Because he wants a bride between 20 and 60. It's going to cost him 30 shekels. Jesus doesn't have 30 shekels. Yeshua is sold for the price of a slave, which is 30 shekels. And these 30 shekels, that you're supposed to pay them to the temple. He is the temple, but when Judas got the 30 shekels, what did he do with them eventually? Threw them to the temple, which is where they had to go for Jesus to purchase his bride, which is us. And he kept the law. He paid 30 shekels for his bride, us. And he paid it to the temple. Isn't that cool? So temple valuations were adhered to in the sales. They took Joseph's tunic, slaughtered a male goat, dipped the tunic in the blood, and they sent the multicolored tunic and brought it to their father and said, "We found this. Please examine it to see whether it is your son's tunic or not." Leviticus 16, Aaron shall cast lots for 2 goats, one lot for the Lord and one for the scapegoat. And the goat on which the lot fell for the scapegoat shall be presented alive before the Lord to make atonement upon it, to send it into the wilderness as the scapegoat. So there's a scapegoat involved, right? There's one goat with Joseph where the goat got killed and they dipped the blood. That's a scapegoat. And then on the Yom Kippur, remember they bring 2 goats, cast lots. One of them, the priest would lean down on it and put all the sins on it, and they'd send that goat out into the wilderness, Mount Seir, throw it off a cliff, do whatever so it wouldn't be bringing the sins back to the village or to the community. Yeah, there was something else I was going to say there, but I can't remember the goat on which scapegoat fell. The Hebrew word for the scapegoat is the Azazel. I don't know what to do with that, but that's just the Hebrew word for Azazel is scapegoat. This is what I was thinking. You know, I'm sure God was upset with those boys for, let's kill our brother. No, we won't kill him. We'll just throw him in this pit and let's sell him. What does it profit us to kill him? And then he ends up getting pulled out and sold to Egypt, but they have to lie to the father about what happened. So I'm thinking, if I was God and I'm watching all this, I'm going, those snakes, how dare they? You know, Joseph is a good guy. Remember, I told you, Joseph has nothing bad written about him, no sin that he's committed. And I could just see God sharpening his lightning bolt, and he's just ready to smack him, you know? And then at the last minute, they decide, you know what? Let's kill this goat and dip and we'll go to father and say, we don't know, but is this your son's coat? Of course, they know the father would know that, and they know it too, you know? And God is just about to zap him, and he looks down, and why doesn't he zap him? Because he sees the blood. When they killed the goat, there's the blood. They didn't even realize they were doing it, but God saw the blood, and he couldn't zap him. He could have, but he did. That's not his rule, right? When he sees the blood, it covers the sin. So they didn't even realize what they were doing when they did it. Yeah, there was sacrifices because Abraham sacrificed, and even God sacrificed in 3:21. God made garments of skin for Adam and his wife and clothed them. Yeah. Okay. Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Nor do you consider it as expedient for us that one man should die for the people and not the whole nation should perish. There's scapegoat involved. Scapegoat is involved. They took Joseph's tunic, slaughtered a male goat, dipped the tunic in blood. They sent the multicolored tunic and brought it to their father and said, "We found this. Please examine it to see whether it is your son's tunic or not." In Revelation 19, he was clothed with a robe dipped in blood. His name is the Word of God. So with Joseph and with Jesus, we have robes dipped in blood. We're going to skip over this. I will mention it quick. Then indeed, even the first covenant had ordinances of divine service and earthly sanctuary. For a tabernacle was prepared, the first part in which was a lampstand, the table, the showbread, which is called the sanctuary. Behind the second veil, this part of the tabernacle is the Holy of Holies, which had the golden censer and the Ark of the Covenant overlaid on all sides with gold. And look what's in the Ark of the Covenant, in which were the golden pot that had the manna, Aaron's rod that budded, and the tablets of the covenant. Above it with cherubim of glory overshadowing the mercy seat. Of these we cannot now speak in detail. Okay, so there were three things in the Ark of the Covenant. There were the tablets. That's how the Bible calls them. That's the word. Here's the rod of Aaron. There it is. And there's the manna. Those are the three things that were in the Ark of the Covenant. And remember, Hebrew has what's called gematria. Every Hebrew letter has a value. If you put in all the values, that's what those three things add up to, which total 853. Which, interestingly enough, the word Messiah is 358. So I don't know what to do with that, but I give it to you. Everything points to Jesus, everything points to Messiah, and maybe those three things, the opposite of which, I don't know. Oh. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so Joseph found favor in his sight and served him. Now remember he gets to Egypt and he's working for Potiphar, the governor. Joseph found favor in his sight and served him. Then he made him observer of his house, and all he had he put under his authority. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. So Joseph and Jesus were both servants. All right? And the Lord was with Joseph, so he became a successful man. And he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. Isaiah 52, behold, my servant will prosper. He will be raised and lifted up and highly exalted. So they were successful servants. Isaiah 53, yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And when his soul is made a guilt offering, he will see his offspring. He will prolong his days, and the good pleasure of the Lord will prosper in his hands. So the Messiah is going to prosper, a successful servant. And while he's at Potiphar's house, so she grabbed him by the garment, saying, sleep with me. But he, Joseph, left his garment in her hand and fled and went outside. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. So both of them faced temptation. So it was, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he did not heed her to lie with her or to be with her. And in Jesus, he's out in the wilderness, and he answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Then Jesus said, it is written, you shall not tempt the Lord your God. Then Jesus said, away with you, Satan, it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God, and him only you shall serve. What's the parallel? They both overcame temptation. By the way, all three times Jesus was tempted, he responded with Deuteronomy. So Deuteronomy with words, debarim, right? So Deuteronomy must be full of good stuff, because I think that's the Old Testament book that Jesus quotes the most. Or I don't know if Jesus quotes, the New Testament quotes Deuteronomy more than any other book. Okay, so overcame temptation. Genesis 39. Then she spoke to him with these words. This is her, the wife, talking to Potiphar. The Hebrew slave whom you brought to us came in to me to make fun of me. But when I raised my voice and screamed, he left his garment beside me and fled outside. Matthew 26. Now the chief priests, elders, and all the council sought false testimony against Jesus to put him to death, but found none. Even though many false witnesses came forward, they found none. But at last 2 false witnesses came forward and said, this fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and build it in 3 days. Both falsely accused. Right? Now, when his master heard, this is Potiphar, when Potiphar heard the words of his wife, which she spoke to him, saying, this is what your slave did to me, his anger burned. By the way, when Potiphar heard the words of his wife, saying, this is what your slave did to me, Potiphar's anger burned. At whom? It doesn't say, that's not supposed to be. That's usually what you would think, isn't it? I think his anger burned at her. He loved Joseph, and he knew Joseph. He knew Joseph would not do anything like that. But when you stop and think about it, when it said his anger burned, I think it burned at his wife. Because now he's in a predicament. When your wife accuses somebody of some immoral act, if you don't stand up for your wife, there's a problem, right? People are going to say, he put Potiphar in a position where Potiphar had to do something bad to Joseph that he didn't want to do. So his anger burned at his wife. That's a verse sometimes we just misinterpret maybe or don't even think about. But yeah, he had to just to save face with the community. You know, his wife is raped by this guy and he doesn't do anything. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before her shears is silent, he did not open his mouth. So and you notice in Joseph doesn't say anything. They both remain silent. Jesus kept silent. The high priest answered and said, I put you oath under the living God. Are you the Christ, the Son of God? But remaining silent. Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. It doesn't necessarily say that Joseph was bound, but he was put in a place where the prisoners were bound. So logically, he was bound, right? And there's a surim is being bound. And Annas sent Jesus bound to Caiaphas the high priest. So both were bound. Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison. Okay, we already read that one. Pilate then went out and said, Behold, I am bringing him out to you, that you may know that I find no fault in him. Therefore, when the chief priests and officers saw him, they cried out, saying, Crucify him, crucify him. Pilate said, You take and crucify him, for I find no fault in him. Although innocent, he was sentenced to death or prison. Okay? Here, Luke 23. There were also two others, criminals, led with him to be put to death. And when they had come to the place called Calvary, there they crucified him and the criminals, one on the right hand and one on the left. So they were jailed and crucified with other prisoners or other criminals. Okay. Here, when they came to the place of the skull, they crucified him there, along with the criminals, one on the right hand and one on the left. John 19, and they crucified him with two others, one on each side and Jesus in the middle. Here's a good question. Why was Jesus crucified between two thieves? Because you always see that, don't you? I mean, there's always, well, it says that there's, right? So you have Jesus and you have two thieves on either side, and they're on a wooden cross. Okay, here, let me show you. Yeah. Why, Kirk, here's a good question. You just come back in time. Why was Christ crucified between two thieves? Are you ready for this? Boom. Because the original sin had two thieves on either side of a wooden tree. Yes? So Jesus is crucified on a wooden tree between two thieves. Original sin was two thieves on either side of a wooden tree. Yeah? You got something better? Huh? Yeah, Adam and Eve were the two thieves. I can't think of anything better. I like it. Sold. Uh-huh. Yes. I hear a voice. Where is it coming from? Oh, so, okay. Jesus became sin. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, cause and effect. Yeah, I'm from East Texas. If Adam and Eve, if the Garden of Eden had been in East Texas, they would have eaten the snake and we wouldn't be in this problem. Or Louisiana. This is on it too. So, okay. Let's pause here, and we will finish tomorrow night. There's a whole bunch more parallels between these two. And let's give our shout out to Donna Strand in Florida, I think. Hello, Donna. And my mom. Okay. Okay, let's have a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, awesome God, thank you again for bringing us out tonight to learn more about your word. Thank you for bringing us here safely. Thank you for all the stuff you hide in your word. I mean, it's just so much. There's no question that you wrote it using your, however, to move people's hands to write this divine word. We ask that you bring us back tomorrow night safely. We always ask for peace for Jerusalem, and that you may get all the honor and the praise and the glory. And we ask in Jesus, Yeshua's name, amen. Okay.